Okay, this week it's time to start in on the series of the adventure books. So, I've already gone over stuff like Curse of Strahd, but today I'm going to start with Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus. Avernus is basically the first level of the Hells in basically a lot of the settings for D&D. So, Baldur's Gate is one of the main cities in the Forgotten Realms, and of course, the history of Baldur's Gate. Kind of like if you look at a lot of the computer games and everything. So the first one, I was introduced to was the original Baldur's Gate, released way back in 1998, and of course, I'm probably dating myself with that. But the whole concept of this of that game, plus they had an expansion for it, Adventures with Sword Coast, sort of Adventures on the Sword Coast. It's expansion for that one. I didn't play the expansion, so someone can actually correct me on that. But I did play the original one. Plus, there's Baldur's Gate 2, which starts with the Shadows of Am, which is pretty much a continuation of that. And then there's the expansion, Baldur's Gate 2 expansion, Throne of Baal, and the whole story arc for those games is that you're a child of the god of murder Baal, and you're basically going around doing battle with the other children of Baal, and you had to in the first one you had to stop your evil brother Saravok, and so it kind of in a sense follows your story arc with that and everything. So and of course, now you got the Baldur's Gate 3, which has recently come out, and which has been popular, one of the most popular games that have come out recently, because it just recently ran one Game of the Year award and everything. So Baldur's Gate video games are still very, very popular. So the this one, the Descent into Avernus, basically uses Baldur's Gate as the backdrop for it. And so in the book itself, I'm not going to be doing the actual flip through for the adventures, so that way people don't necessarily, especially players, PCs, don't get necessarily pre-knowledge of it and everything. Of course, of course, a good DM would be able to finagle and kind of a offshoot of stuff if they do come across this. So they do have the map of the Baldur's Gate city in here. So the whole concept of this is basically you're descending into hell, and so you kind of get thrown into you start off in the city in Baldur's Gate, and you get thrown into political intrigue, and so there's a city, neighboring city, El Turel, and they give this whole big map of El Turel, and this one is actually dragged. This town, all of a sudden, you're stuck in Baldur's Gate. They close the gates, and they're not letting any refugees from this El Turel town. And come to find out, this is and that map shows this was actually dragged into hell by the archfiend of Avernus, and you're dragged into the political intrigue in Baldur's Gate in the first chapter of the people that are wanting that are serving this archfiend, and you get dragged into the hell between the war between in Avernus between the demons and devils, and so this whole first chapter and everything is all based in Baldur's Gate, and you do make your way to Candlekeep as well, which is the great library, and it also does make an appearance in the previous games, the first Baldur's Gate I mentioned. And of course, I will share some of the artwork in here. So they got a nice, good rendition of what the city would actually look like on the river that is on. So I am going to show artwork of this. But this adventure is designed for players to take them from levels 1 to 13. Now most adventures that I'll be going over, this one included, they tend to go from start off at level 1, and you get up to level 10 to 12 to 13, or and of course in this instance, in this adventure, you go from levels 1 to 13. So this book is basically broken into four chapters. The first chapter is in Baldur's Gate, and I said, you're basically getting into the political intrigue and like the back and forth between like the for instance nobles of Baldur's Gate, and so like you're in a sense trying to stop in a sense save the city Elturel from like being dragged into the Avernus permanently. So the whole first chapter is like using Baldur's Gate as a background, and is kind of building you up into going into the first level of hell and everything. So like and that takes you from like levels 1 to 4. Chapter 2 is actually you go into Avernus, into Elturel, and you go from levels 5 and 6, and you're trying to save, like, in a sense, the city from being dragged into the river Styx, which is in Avernus and everything. And then like chapter 3 is all about going into the surrounding parts of Avernus. And so like this on the flip side of like this huge map they get of Elturel, they also like give you a map of the surrounding area of Avernus that you go into. So chapter 3 is basically like the surrounding area for Avernus, and takes you from level 7 to level 10. Chapter 4 takes you from 11 to 12, and quite possibly up to 13. And you're sitting there still in Avernus trying to get like a bunch of magical items and stuff, and kind of like get yourself out and kind of like end the war and like save the city. And then like chapter 5 is pretty much for like levels 13 and higher, and it basically is like that's the last chapter, like where you're tying things all together and in a sense finishing the adventure. So like this is like in a sense like a 5-chapter adventure, but like it's like a much more in depth, because like you can kind of see like most books are probably about that thick and everything, and of course like they do have like a good artwork of like characters also as well. So like this one is basically the whole idea is like you're like fighting demons and devils and everything. So like it takes the phrase "go to hell" to a whole new phrase and everything. So like and of course they do got like a miniaturized photo of the big map that I showed, and they also got like a artwork that kind of can help set the stage and everything for that descent into like the river Styx that I mentioned and everything. So like this is just one of the many adventures that are like out there, and of course like a lot of times people talk about like how D&D is broken above levels 12 and 13, so that's why like most of these adventures only go from like from 1 to up to like 10, like with the Curse of Strahd, or in this one up to 1 to 13, and there's others that like go anywhere in between and everything, because there's the mechanics a lot of people say are like I said broken from levels 12, 13 or so and on up, because like at that stage you're like and of course you can also see this for like the previous editions of D&D, like you're starting to now become like so powerful. Like if you get like for instance like level 20, you could in a sense start rivaling like the kings and queens and like the noblemen and like the higher echelons of each realm that you're in and everything. So of course a good DM would like always have like a trick up his sleeve to throw like maybe like a champion or several against the upstart party and everything. So and like they definitely have good artwork in this book to help like set the stage for like your descent into hell. So like I said, this adventure is like designed for like levels 1 to 13, and with this they give you all the monsters, all the NPCs, and like everything that you need in each section. And so like as a DM you want to kind of like read this, at least read through it first, so you have a good general idea of like what goes on, and like you going from point A to point B, like basically from like chapters 1, the Baldur's Gate and Candlekeep, into chapter 2, your descent into Avernus, and then chapters 3 going into the surrounding area of Avernus, and chapters 4 and getting the magical items and stuff that I said to kind of like start to wrap things up, and then chapter 5 kind of in a sense tying again like all the loose ends and everything together and ending the actual adventure and everything. So like I said, this one is designed pretty much for you to take you to level 13. So like you could, in a sense, run a whole campaign just on this adventure book alone. And like of course, like most of them, like even like a Curse of Strahd that I've gone over before, you could run a whole campaign based on just that. And then of course, I mean, yeah, you could say, well, we're up to level 10 and then we want to continue, so like getting into like the von Richten's guide, you could use that to kind of extend like the Ravenloft campaign. Of course, with this, like you could with taking it to level 13, you could in a sense expand from like level 13 to level 20 if you do want to go to the higher levels, and kind of in a sense use this theme kind of descend even further through the nine hells and everything. So you could use this as a springboard, as an idea to for something like that. So but you don't necessarily need to like do that. So like these adventures are pretty much like good ways to like do standalone adventures for like a campaign setting. And so like you could run this over like several sessions and everything. So like and they got even more nice artwork about like all the monsters and battles and stuff that like you go through this campaign setting. So like and of course like it does have like it does actually have like a section where it actually goes through like a Baldur's Gate gazetteer. So it goes through like the history of Baldur's Gate, and goes through like the organizations, like the pretty much like the Flaming Fist, which Flaming Fist mercenary group is kind of like the police force of the group and everything. And of course you do run into them in this adventure, and like of course it does like also give like a map of like the surrounding area of where Baldur's Gate is and everything. So like the gazetteer would be like a perfect in a sense companion for like DMs to kind of like after you run this adventure, you could then expand. Like you don't necessarily have to go down to the into like the further depths of hell that I mentioned. You could expand it into like the further surrounding areas of the Forgotten Realms itself, where Baldur's Gate is located. So like and yet even more artwork to kind of showcase like a picture, like a scene in like the city that you could run and everything. So like I said, this whole like adventure takes you from like level 1 to 13, and it's just another one so that you can do. And this is going to be the first one of the many that you do. So like they got yet another map of like the city, and actually shows like a geography too of stuff as well. So it gives like this gazetteer section gives you like as the DM all like the background information that you need to not only run this adventure but adventures on the surrounding area as well. So like that's what like this whole like book is pretty much designed to do, is for like the whole concept of like basically like going to hell type of deal. So like it does have like in a sense like in the back it does have like some actual like artwork and like concept art and everything that you can see. Like you can picture like your adventures in like the wastelands of Avernus and stuff in these pictures. So it does kind of give like in a sense like a good concept art and everything that you can use for the campaign. So this is like the first one, Descent into Avernus. The first one I'm going to be doing on the series of like the adventure books and everything. So again, this one is designed to take you from like levels 1 to 13. It's broken into 5 chapters, and like how you run it is basically up to you as the DM and the PCs and how you do it and everything. And it's like most if not all these adventures, it's designed for like groups of 4 to 6, which is the typical amount of party the stereotypical party is 4, but it does allow for a 5th and 6th player. I mean, you can get more, but it kind of gets bogged down if you start to get more, and like if you have less, it's a little harder to do. So that's why they usually recommend, like for most, if not all adventures, 4 to 6, because it seems to be that seems to be the magic number and everything. So again, this is the first of the adventure books that I'll be going through. So like one last time, this is Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus.